Welcome to another episode of the Terry and Frank Show. Last week, we promised you that today, Terry and I would be talking about belonging, beginning with what it is. So before we get into this, Terry, maybe you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yes, I am Terry Mays. I'm a certified culture engineer, and I have experience with helping companies create environments that bring out the best in their people.
And boy, is she good at it. I'm Frank Wander. I'm a turnaround CIO who realized the most important tool in IT was the people and spent, 20 years studying the human side of business and how to make it highly productive. So we are going to talk about belonging today, what it is, and next week we're going to talk about how to create it. It's a very hot topic.
Yeah.
Belonging for everyone is really what it's all about. And so, Tara, let's get right into it.
Yes.
Belonging. Most people don't
Belonging.
know what it is. They think it's an emotion. What do you?
Right. Right. So we're gonna dibble and dabble a little bit today in that whole distinction between emotions and feelings. But
Mhm.
belonging is really a feeling you get. It's really generated by those things that you sense from the environment. So the people that you're working with, how they make you feel. So it's not always something so tangible. It's really on the feeling side. So you have to be a little bit discerning, but you can determine whether or not you feel that sense of belonging based on how you're interacting with people in your environment, people, how they're, maybe those things that they do for you, how they make you feel welcomed in the environment. Does your team make you feel like you're a part of the team, or do you feel like
Mhm.
an outsider? All of those things play into whether or not people feel that sense of belonging.
Yes, that's right. And it is a sense of belonging because it's occurring in the subconscious. It's not actually a physiological thing like anger, where you have, different, adrenaline, other things starting to go through your body, or fear. These things, this is different, right? It's kind of that collective addition in math your mind is doing on everything, where it adds up everything going on in the environment. And so you feel like you belong, you don't belong. And there's little b belonging, which is that initial sense of belonging, and belonging can grow and deepen over time. And I think most people really don't think very deeply about these things. They throw all these words around. A lot of things are outcomes, like
Mhm.
collaboration's an outcome. Belonging is an outcome, and then they'll talk about empathy and other things that, really are physiological in nature, but quite different. And there's certain things that are fulfilling emotional needs at a low level, like people want to know you care for them. They have a sense of caring. They need to be needed. These things happen. And eventually the mind adds it up and you get this feeling that you belong.
Right. That sense of belonging doesn't
Mhm.
come from just one thing. It's a
No.
collective set of activities and just different feelings that you've had over time. So this feeling of and sense of belonging can grow. It can change. So you may initially not feel like you belong, but over time things can change and you start to feel like, hey, maybe I really do belong with this organization.
Right on. Yes.
Yeah. So Frank,
Um,
you've done a lot of research in this area, and
yeah.
I think it'd be great for you to share some of the things that you've learned about it.
Well, I started looking into this really in 97. I was doing a turnaround in an insurance company, and it was a lot of work to do there. And I just realized that, wow, I'm doing another turnaround, and it always seems that it's the human side I'm fixing. Why is this a blind spot? And having been a bio major, I said, I'm going to dig into this because I'm doing things that are obviously effective and we're getting an incredible amount done. People are having a good time. And let me look and see what the science says. I start off with Daniel Goleman's book on emotional intelligence. That was highly illuminating. And that set me on a road to say, you know what? Anybody could master the human side of business. It's a tool. You need to be able to use this tool. Means you need to understand the equipment you're working with. I don't like calling humans equipment, but as an analogy, I think it works. You know, you've
Yeah.
been given, you as a leader have been given these resources that are extremely expensive, and they're alive and their futures in many ways are tied to you and the success of the firm and what's going on. So you got to take care of them. That means you got to understand them. And belonging is one of the things you want to create. and you find out people throw it around like it's an emotion. Oh, that sense of belonging, like it's really just the one thing, but it's not. It's this thing that's, collective, just like collaboration isn't one thing. To build a collaborative environment, there are all sorts of helping behaviors, sharing, and all the things that precede, that collaboration that has to take place. So these things are all outcomes.
Right.
And, you find out when you start digging into this that emotions and feelings are just different, and emotions really feed that subconscious, that sense of the world you're in, and eventually it's able to piece together a sense of whether you belong or not. And that's a
Right.
feeling.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
like, it's not like adrenaline running through your veins that says you belong here. Uh-uh. That's not how it works.
Right. You can have a wide range of emotions that all kind of they really map back to a set of feelings.
Yeah.
So, having that sense of belonging will really come from your range of emotions that you felt over time. So, you
Mm,
feel connected to your team. You feel like people have your back, that they're there for you, that they care about you, that they want to see you succeed. So, they're doing everything that they can to help you succeed. And
that's
that's
right.
really the thing, those are the things that really bring together that sense of belonging, and then it creates that environment where people feel like I can really trust my team and I can really depend on my team. And that's what really starts to get innovation going. That's what really starts to get people being more productive because they're not spending a whole lot of time fighting unnecessary fires. There are always going to be fires to fight, but you don't want it to be that people have to spend so much time fighting each other because they can't work together, they can't collaborate, they're not good at sharing. You don't want it to be those things that weigh you down because there'll be plenty of other things that keep you from being able to be more productive.
Yeah. I mean, there's real work to do,
Right, right.
Hey, maybe I'll share that little chart of feelings and emotions,
Yeah, because people use that interchangeably, and I've been guilty of that myself, of
Yeah.
just calling feelings emotions and emotions feelings. And I think the distinction between the two really does bring a different, it brings a better understanding of what this is all about.
Yeah. And this is not my intellectual property. I had downloaded this years ago off the internet. And, at the end of the day, what is the difference? Emotions are really the first thing that happens. They're you interacting with the world. They tell us what we like and dislike. Emotions state there are good and bad actions. The external world matters. They establish our initial attitude towards reality, tell us of immediate dangers, immediate survival. They're intense but temporary: joy, fear, enthusiasm, anger, lust, sadness. And then we go over here. All of those are feeding into this subconscious mind, and it's beginning to interpret the world around it. So feelings tell us how to live. There's a right and wrong way to be, that your emotions matter, your long term attitude towards reality. So this is really important, especially when you come down to belonging. It is that more longer term attitude about whether you belong. And like you said earlier, Tara, it could change.
Yeah,
Things can happen to change your sense of belonging for the better or for the worse. So feelings are low key but sustainable: happiness, worry is a feeling, contentment, bitterness, love, depression, and belonging. So these things they're very different. It's that immediate reality, and the emotions typically are, you know, physiological in nature.
right,
Fear is very physiological. Anger is very physiological. Whereas
right,
belonging is that sense, that, hey, wow, this is a good place.
right. You get that wave of emotion that comes over you where you get that contentment and that joy, where you feel good about being there and you want to be there. So we've all been in those teams and in working on those different projects where you just dread Monday morning. You don't want to be there. And that's indicative of you not having that sense of belonging. That
That's
is
correct.
that is your body's way of telling you that this is not something that we enjoy. So it's really important because it really hampers your creativity when you feel like you don't belong and that nobody is there that cares about you in that environment. It really leaves you in a place where you just want to do the bare minimums. You don't
Yeah.
want to go overboard. You don't want to excel. You feel like you just need to give the least amount of effort.
Yeah, and you know this, I think DEI is going to give way to this belonging for everyone in a very big way.
Yes,
And you know, every individual and leader should understand what this is and how they can create that sense of belonging for the people around them. How do they add to that? Because everybody's responsible, really. You
right,
know, the people that you work with, your coworkers, you know, neighbors, everybody, whatever it might be. You know, what's that sense of belonging? What's the community? It's a work community, your local community. You know, these are all communities of people.
right. So leadership on that
Mhm.
team or for that company, the leadership will play a big part in this, but you're right. Everybody has a part to play because the leaders aren't there in the everyday activities in the day-to-day work.
Oh,
They're
far
not
fewer of
involved in
the
those details.
interactions. They're in
Yeah,
far fewer of the interactions. They're interacting mostly with their coworkers. So
right.
they're a vital piece of this. It's not like this is a leadership issue, you know, everybody's accountable.
Right. That's right. Everybody has a part to play to create that environment where people feel like they belong. And so if you're in one of those environments where you don't feel like you belong, talk to some people around you and see if maybe it's not just you. Are there other people that are feeling that same way? And you
Mhm.
can begin to create a sense of community and belonging inside of an environment where you don't feel like you belong. If that's
Yeah.
short term where you need to be, you can create that sense of belonging in a smaller subset. In that smaller group, you can really have a great sense of belonging that fuels staying in that environment for the time that you have to be there.
For sure. You know, groups of people can come together and create a tight knit little mini community of their own.
Yes,
There's no question. And humans are born with skills to do this.
right,
You know, you just
right,
got to develop them. And that's why understanding all this stuff matters. It's relevant because then you can approach it in a much more deliberate way and know you're doing something while you're doing it. You could, you know, you can really talk about belonging when somebody new is joining and sense whether they've actually achieved a sense of belonging. You can ask them, do you feel you belong here? Do you feel you belong here?
right,
Right?
right. That's right,
If not, why? You know, don't be afraid. Everybody
right,
really does want to belong. Sometimes people shouldn't belong somewhere. They may have made a bad choice in terms of their career and where they're going. You know, people get into things, they have no idea what they're going to do with their life, and suddenly they got to make a choice. So they go down roads that they're bad dead ends for them, really. And
right,
sometimes they're in the wrong, they've gotten themselves into the wrong kind of job situation for their life, their career, and they may never belong anywhere because they're just not fulfilled. They've got to
right,
go address these root issues. So it can be much more complicated. It's just not the few individuals around you and the leaders. You know, they could be very inclusive and stuff, but if you're not getting meaning and satisfaction, achievement out of the work, if you can't fulfill your achievement needs, you're going to feel like you got to move on. And you got to think about what is the real problem? Is it all these environments I don't fit in, or is it me, you know, being the wrong piece coming into these puzzles?
right. You hit on to something that's really an interesting thought for me of
Mm-hmm.
it's possible for you to be in in that state of feeling like you don't belong because you're not in the right place. You're
Yeah,
not in the place where you're able to bring out the best that you have. So you're
correct.
trying to force yourself into environments that other people are thriving in, but because of you, your particular skill sets, your particular lifestyle, and who you are, all of the things that make you you, it's just not good for that particular
Yeah.
environment. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's just, you know, when you're unhappy, because that's what happens, you got to understand why. That's why self introspection, self awareness is so important.
Right,
You know, you got to have a dialogue with yourself about, wow, you know, I'm in this third place and I'm unhappy. You know, what is it? Why am I
right.
unhappy?
And
You know,
don't ignore those feelings
oh
because
no.
your
Mm-mm.
feelings are really there to drive you towards those, emotions. So now you can start to understand what's really happening. And you can really do some, like you said, self reflection. You can
Yeah.
evaluate, am I in the wrong career path?
They are
Maybe
your
I'm
compass,
trying
but
to
you're
be
not.
something that I was never intended to be. And that's why I'm feeling so sad and depressed all the time, or that's why
Mm.
I'm angry all the time.
So belonging is an incredibly important subject and one that everybody's going to be hearing a lot more about. But I think just getting down the basics of what it is so important. So, I think this is a good primer on what is belonging. Next week, we're going to talk about how to create belonging, what role you can play, what role leaders should play. And we'll go through, things week by week that really make a difference in the sense of belonging of the people around you.
Yes. Yes. I think that was really good.
Yeah, that
Really
was
good
good.
discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, listen, if you like the episode, make sure you share it, okay? We want this
Yes.
message out there. Everybody should belong, and you need to help share this so this message gets out.
Yes. And join us on Wednesdays live. We've started doing live on Wednesdays. So make
Yeah.
sure you join us.
Yeah. Be there
It's at
live.
4 Eastern.
Absolutely. Follow us, get the link. Make sure you go to each one of these live episodes, put your comments in. We want to chat with you. We'd love to have your input. These are important topics, especially at times like this. So,
Yes.
Tara, I'm going to bid everybody adieu. How about you?
All
Till next
right. We'll see
week.
you next time.
Take care. Bye.